Rahman Abbas, but you probably know him by a different name, Hushpuppi. Does that ring a bell? And at one point, he had more than 2 million followers on Instagram. And if you've probably followed him when he had those amount of followers and those trends and controversies around him, you probably see what I would describe as an unbelievable kind of wealth. There's private jet, luxury hotels, Rolls-Royce, designer clothing, bags, shoes, and all of that. And Hushpuppi wanted you to see all of that because he constantly posted on Instagram and online. But what he probably did not know is, while millions of people was watching his lifestyle, seeing the trends, the new designers every week, and then the FBI was also watching. And eventually, the same internet that helped him and make Hushpuppi famous would also then help the FBI with their investigation to exactly uncover who this person is, what he's connected to, and that eventually led to the big cash. So how then did a boy from Lagos become one of the most famous internet fraudsters in the world? And how did the FBI finally catch him? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to where his story started. His real name is Rahman Abbas, and he grew up in a local government area in Lagos State. His life then looked nothing like what we see today, what we know, or what he would always typically display on Instagram. But somewhere along the way, Abbas left Nigeria. He moved to Malaysia, and later he then moved to Dubai. And that was where Hushpuppi, at least the version of him that you and we all know on the internet, then emerged. And if you were on Instagram again at the time when Hushpuppi was very trendy, it was almost impossible not to know who Hushpuppi was. His page was basically one long display of wealth, and he would walk into luxury stores, came out of luxury stores with bags, clothing, designers, and that was what Hushpuppi wanted us to see and know about him. There was a lot of Gucci, Fendi, Louis Vuitton, and Balenciaga. He wore expensive shoes, watches, he flew private jets, and he stayed in some of the most luxurious places and hotels in the world. At one point, he was living in a Palazzo Versace in Dubai, and he did not just show that lifestyle, he talked about it regularly online and in his numerous videos. He even calls himself the billionaire Gucci master. He posted multiple various kinds of motivational captions along with his Instagram photos about success, coming from nothing to something. And for many of his followers, that was exactly how they saw him. He was this Nigerian man who appeared and who apparently made it out of millions of people. And he had come from what he would describe as humble beginning and somehow built this extraordinary life and wealth for himself. But there was one very important question. Where was all of this money that he was spending coming from? Because Hushpuppi described himself as a real estate developer. The problem was investigators who were investigating him at that time could not find any visible real estate business that explained where all this money that he was spending was coming from. And behind that Instagram page that we all see, investigators say that there was something different happening behind the scenes that people did not know and could not see. A major part of the case against Hushpuppi involved something called a business email compromise, or a BEC fraud. And if you have never heard of what a BEC fraud is, I'm going to tell you. This is how it works. So imagine you work for a company and you regularly receive invoice on a desktop or on a computer, and someone then gains access to an email account. They watch how you send the invoices, they learn how the company communicates with people, businesses, and that is where it starts. When they've learned who sends this invoice, how the invoice is sent, the language, the grammar, that is when they quickly attack. Boom, you get an email, it arrives in your inbox, and it looks exactly identical to the one you would typically and normally receive. Same name, similar email address, everything looks different, but what becomes very different is the bank account where the money is being sent to. So instead of sending the money to the real company where you would typically send the money to, you then send the money directly to this scam email account or bank account or whatever. And then this is where the scammers take the money. And according to the US prosecutors, Hushpuppi was part of an international network, so he wasn't doing it alone. He helped move and launder huge, numerous amount of money that was stolen. The case stretched across different countries and different continents. There was also money that was stolen from a foreign bank, money moved through accounts in Europe. And also a New York law firm was tricked into sending more than $900,000, which was supposed to be used for a client's real estate refinancing. That is so sad. Investigators also connected that this same network attempted to steal millions of dollars from victims, including the English Premier Football League club. You can imagine how big of a network Hushpuppi was involved with. But here is where the story gets interesting, because Hushpuppi was living two different completely lives, the one on internet and the one in real life. He was building this public image of extreme wealth, and behind the scenes, again, nobody could tell. Everyone was wondering, what did this man do for a living? Investigators said that he was communicating with people who were involved in moving money, and eventually those two lives then collided. The FBI did not just investigate the money, they investigated Hushpuppi himself, his online identity, his phone numbers, his email addresses, his location, and his social media account that he wanted us to see online. They also investigated his friends and his connections. And one of the biggest problems for Hushpuppi was that he had spent years, months, putting so much of his life online without realizing that his digital footprint counts. Investigators were already looking into someone else, a friend of his who was involved in an alleged co-conspiration. And that was how they found a contact saved on this person's phone named Hush. And the contact was also connected to a Snapchat username called Hushpuppi5. And from there, investigators were able to connect that Snapchat account to the public Instagram account with millions of people already following it. And that account apparently belongs to Hushpuppi. And that was what then helped the FBI confirm the details and the identity of Hushpuppi. So think about this for a second. Those photos that were supposed to show the world how successful he was, the kind of good life he was living, were now being examined by federal investigators in the US. Even a birthday post that he made helped investigators. In one photo, Hushpuppi posted, post with a cake. He posted a photo with Fendi logo, Fendi clothing all over. And most people just saw it as another Hushpuppi post celebrating his birthday, but that was not how investigators saw it. Investigators used those photos, pieced it together, and they were able to confirm his actual date of birth. And then they compared that details with what they already have, the passport information, visa records, and then that was how they were able to, put things together and confirm that this is the same Hushpuppi that they were looking for. And then came June 2020. The Dubai police launched an operation called Fox Hunt 2. Police carried out series of coordinated raids and arrested several suspects. Among the suspects was Hushpuppi. He was arrested at the Palazzo Versace in Dubai. That operation by the Dubai police was filmed and the footage was spread everywhere. For years, people had watched videos of Hushpuppi surrounded by wealth, luxury, designers, nice things, And now, people were now starting to watch videos of police officers seizing phones, computers, cash, luxury items that he owned. And that was where the downfall of Hushpuppi began. The image that he worked years to build became completely destroyed online. After his arrest, Hushpuppi was then transferred to the United States where he faced charges. And at this point, prosecutors had built a detailed case against him. They had all the evidence that they knew. He was accused of being part of a network involved in wire fraud, cybercrime, and laundering stolen money across multiple countries in the world. He tried to get a bail, but the court said no. Why? Because prosecutors argued that This man has a lot of wealth. He has access to money, international connections, friends, people. He also owned a second passport from the St. Kitts and Nevis, and the judge considered him a flight risk because he could easily fly away from the United States, run away, and go to wherever. So Hushpuppi remained in federal custody. Then in April 2021, he pleaded guilty to the conspiracy to engage in money laundering. And this is where the story of Hushpuppi, the billionaire, the Gucci master, really came to an end. On November 7th, 2022, a judge in Los Angeles sentenced him to 135 months in federal prison. That is a total of, around 11 years and 3 months. He was also ordered to pay a fine of more than 1.7 million in restitution to two of the victims. This is the story of Hushpuppi, one of the notorious internet fraudster that the world has ever seen.